Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
There it is.
Nice.
Massive 42, baby.
Very cool. Very cool.
The original Joe Faranda. Joseph
that's,
Best.
that's
Class of
awesome.
42.
That's awesome.
So, and if you graduated in 42, you were graduating right into the maw of you know what.
Mm.
And he always said, give me a second, I got to put this back.
Okay.
He always said that that piece of paper saved his life. Because he graduated, May 5th or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
May 6th, he's at the draft board.
Wow.
And he said, the guy said, everybody that went to college, step forward. And he's like, oh boy, what do I do? They're going to know if I lie. So he steps forward, thinking, what happens? And he said, all right, you guys are in the Signal Corps. The rest of you are in the infantry.
Yeah.
Saved his life.
Wow.
So Laura Browne, welcome.
Thank you.
To Real Estate Unscripted. I've known you a couple minutes.
You have a couple minutes.
Little while.
Been a nice relationship, I must say.
Do you remember our very first deal?
I do. You were referred to me by another realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was a Yonkers property, right?
At Yonkers? Something like that, down there.
Yeah.
Down there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I recall it being a little tough. I don't remember all the details, but what's really not tough? Do we really ever have regular, normal, easy deals? Not even cash is easy anymore. So, yeah.
So for those who don't know, I have a very short list of real estate attorneys that I refer. And at the top of that very, very short list is Laura Browne. Fordham graduate, undergrad, and he went to law school. He went to Pace and everything like that.
Blah, blah. Yeah.
Well, my brother went to Pace too. I mean, we're Pace and Fordham over here. We're a couple of different places.
Mm-hmm.
But you are, if I'm not mistaken, from the Bronx. You grew up in the Bronx. So tell me about that.
I did. So I grew up on Morris Park in the Bronx.
Yes.
Predominantly Italian neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school at St. Dominic's, which was on White Plains Road.
Yes.
They have since closed it, I believe.
Imagine that, a Catholic school closing.
I know.
Unheard of.
It's horrible. And then went to Monsignor Scanlon, also in the Bronx. That's the school. Used to be Helena's. St. Helena's used to be an all-girl school.
Yes.
Right by the Throgs Neck Bridge. And that's where I met my wonderful husband. And I would say that even if he wasn't listening. And went on from there. So true Bronx gal. Yeah, I'll never leave the Bronx.
Indeed. Well, you can take the girl out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the girl, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So what I recall, and this is, I think people can appreciate this, long time ago. This was in the like the eye of the Great Recession storm, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
The agent that referred us was Yana.
Yes.
I better say this right. Anna Chirico. Right. We had a buyer who had a kind of a ascot wearing attorney, and they were purchasing a bank-owned foreclosure because Yara does that.
Mm-hmm.
And the bank-owned for this attorney that the buyer had was, well, this is highly irregular, I don't know what his deal was, but he was really from the other side of the street, and he couldn't get his mind around the fact that this was sort of a repossessed house and had all of the title domino effects therein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I asked Yara, do you know an attorney that knows what they're doing? And she gave me your number. And it took one deal for me to be like, oh my God, I need this woman in my life.
Thank you.
I need this woman in my life.
There's a lot of attorneys that shy away from representing clients on REO properties. Like I'll get, referrals and they're like, oh yeah, I was going to use this other attorney, but they don't do REOs and stuff. And I'm like, I don't understand. I don't know. But I guess whatever, it's personal preference. There's a lot of things that can happen with the REOs, and there could be title problems, right? But that's why you get title searches and title insurance.
And that's why you use an attorney around here, right? I mean, that's
Absolutely.
the whole point.
To protect you.
So it's, I don't, lawyers are free to practice as they choose, I suppose. But I mean, if you're going to do real estate, and I think a lot of lawyers at that time were caught off guard with all of the distress that was hitting the market.
Yes.
At the time, for sure. That's for sure. But all right, so let's go back to this. So you were something before you were a lawyer. All right. So this is interesting. So a lot of lawyers that I know, they went college, law school, law. That was the sort of their thing, which is the polar opposite of real estate agents, which is, school, work, other work, this work, back to school, other work. Maybe I'll get my real estate license.
Right.
Or something like that. But you had a different journey. So tell me about that. Because you, I think, were married already before you went back.
So yes. So what had happened was, first of all, I always wanted to be an attorney since I was younger. It was a toss up between attorney and veterinarian. But I did attorney.
I see where we're going here.
See where we're going? So
anyway,
so by the time I got to high school, after like my second year, third year, I was like, you know what? I don't know that I want to be an attorney because I didn't want to go through all that schooling. And I was like, I'm so, there's a lot of schooling. I'm like done already. I want to go out there. I want to start working and whatever, make the money. And I decided, okay, I'm going to go to business school and I'm going to take up computer programming. So I graduated. I got my associates with my programming degree. And I started to work for Crasdale Foods.
Oh, my God. Sure.
Yes. Remember them back in the day?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They have the big warehouse in the Bronx.
Yep.
So I discovered 6 months later that I suck at computer programming. But I have to tell you, I was so distraught when I got fired. I was like, oh my God, I was so upset when they fired me. But I was programming in C language. I don't know if that even exists anymore. And
I never heard of it.
Horrible. Yeah. See, that's how old it is. Yeah. And I was horrible at it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. By that time, I was engaged with Eddie. And I said, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get on that true path that, I was born to be on, So we got married. I went to school. We got married in June. Went to school in September. That's where Fordham comes in. Before I graduated from Fordham, I had our son right before graduation. And after that, I went to Pace Law School. I went at night because I was working during the day. And after
but not in computer programming.
Not in computer programming. I stayed away from that. If I need anything with computers, Eddie's the one that helps me with that. Okay. I know nothing about computers. Anyway. So after my second year at night of law school, I had Amanda. And then I finished up. Mm-hmm. And then I was working for, various different attorneys, getting my feet wet, so to speak. And really, I enjoyed the real estate because after I got fired from Crasdale, I was looking for a job, right? And I decided, that's when I decided, all right, I'm going to go back to law school, blah, blah, blah. And a cousin of mine, she knew that this attorney was looking for a legal secretary. And I ended up working downtown for this attorney for about 7 years. And I got a lot of my, real estate stuff from him. He did litigation. So I was exposed to litigation, the real estate. I met a really good friend of mine who owned a title company at the time. We became really good friends. So I was really learning a lot of stuff, which kind of made me unique as someone who was going into law school, because generally when you go into law school, you don't have a lot of knowledge. So
yeah, most people, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, at least that I know, are like what I described, straight to law school
Right.
from college, so they don't have a
So
lot of life experience.
exactly. So I got, I got some experience. So by the time I was done with law school and then admitted, I was basically able to go out on my own because I had built, such a solid, real estate background. And I was very comfortable with it and I enjoyed it, so that really helped me.
Yeah.
And during that time while I was working for different attorneys, I also worked for a title company. So I was able to get, title insurance knowledge.
Yep.
I worked for attorneys that closed for banks. So I also do bank work. I'm very familiar with that. So it really helped me. And then, of course, commercial was thrown in there, and business, transactions and stuff. So I was really well rounded by the time I was on my own. And I was very grateful at the people, for the people who were in my life that helped to shape my real estate career,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, and we're talking about Eddie, your husband. So it's a
Mhm.
mixed marriage because, as I understand, he's a Mets fan and you grew up a Yankees fan. Or am I wrong? We make it work, right?
We make it work. Exactly. We make it work. And I do have to say, as you know, we're going to be celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary in June. 30 years, the love of my life, the man of my dreams. Um, you know, and again, I'll say that without him listening, but yes, he has been my rock through our marriage. He completes me.
Love it.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He's been through the numerous, endless nights of studying when I was in law school.
Yep.
You know,
And he was
just,
probably telling you you got this.
yeah, he
He's
did.
probably telling you got this.
Extremely
Right.
supportive, extremely
Yep.
supportive. I couldn't ask for a better man in my life. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll concur. I think he's an okay guy.
yeah, he's okay.
He doesn't like the doors, which I understand. And again, I'm an open-minded guy. I'm an inclusive guy. And if you don't like the doors, that's really fine. I think we both agree on Pink Floyd. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I
he
think
has
so.
good taste, and he is a the people's philosopher in some respects because um you've spoken about him as a husband, but I can't really. I don't know that I'm the best husband guy, but I I really dig talking to him about the fatherhood thing. All
Mm,
right, and one of my favorite things that he has said is that it's funny how words and actions have effects that you have to deal with later on.
hmm
And and just the way he articulates that. Like if you do something dumb, then right? Then it's funny how scientifically it's been empirically proven that after the dumb thing is done, bad things occur. Whereas if you don't even have to be brilliant, just don't do dumb shit, and then you have less of a likelihood of the bad things happening downstream. I think I've captured his uh his mojo just a bit there in
Yeah, I
terms of
think so. I think so.
fatherhood.
I think so.
It's a pleasure to hear him expound about that stuff. All
Yeah.
right, so you've got your law degree, you've got your very diversified real life experience, you got um, your son and your daughter, and you go into practice, and real estate becomes the focus of your practice.
Yes. Yes.
And I got to think you'd been practicing at least 5 years or more before we connected because you knew what you were doing. This was not like the ink is still drying on my diploma. You
Right.
knew what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been in the real estate world since the end of 92. That was when I was first exposed to real estate and I started to build my real estate knowledge. So yeah, and I enjoy it. I mean, I really wouldn't do anything else. As frustrating as it can be, and it can be very frustrating, right?
Mm.
When you're dealing with people, right? But I enjoy helping clients. I enjoy sitting down with them, making sure that they understand, what's going on, the expectations, and things like that. I like it, and I like talking to people.
Well, you do it well.
Thank you.
So I know when we started to do deals together, like I said, it was the Great Recession.
Mm-hmm.
And it became very clear to me early that short sales were like one of your true specialties. And it's funny, at that time, either agents were fending for themselves dealing with the banks with short sales.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that aren't familiar, short sales, when you go to the lender and you say, "Hey, lender, we're worth 500, but we owe 600. But if you take this 500, you'll avoid a foreclosure. So why don't you just take it and forgive the homeowner, because they're doing their best to make good on this." And it takes months to meander through their what's called, the loss mitigation department. But no one does them like you. I mean, you
Well,
were
thank you.
you were the brand's secret weapon to a large degree, because that was the market of the moment, really market of the decade at
Right.
that time.
Right. It
And
was.
I remember having 5, 6, 7 at one time, pending with you in the company. And I got to say, I don't know, as a sole practitioner, how you did it, spinning all those plates, because even one short sale is hard. Many short sales concurrently, I don't know. I don't know how you did it.
I mean, we have good follow up. I mean, obviously, we have a list. Well, now I have a system that helps to kind of keep track of things, which you're aware of. But back then, I really didn't have anything other than my physical list and writing notes and keeping everything in the file. And yeah, I mean, it was tough in the beginning with those short sales. I mean, the banks didn't know what hit them at that
Yeah.
time. I mean, if you may remember, there were a few that we did where I was getting the client 20,000, 30,000 back at the closing. The banks were just kind of giving money away. That was before they called it the half incentive, which is now
Yep.
capped at like $3,000. But they were just giving money away to clients. And then
Well, it was the government's money in some respects, wasn't it? But it was just a way
yes,
to grease the wheels of
absolutely.
getting
No,
the
absolutely.
sellers to move.
Yeah, to move and stuff. And it took a little while, I think, for the banks to kind of get into a routine.
Yes.
But once they got into a routine and they streamlined the process, it became a lot easier. So Equator had come about during that time. The online system. Bank of America was the first bank to use that. And then we had other banks follow. Chase followed after that, SPS, SLS. So, once you streamline that process, and now I don't have to worry about calling someone up and getting like, the 10th different person on the phone to talk to the file about, or talk about the file to, makes it much easier. So
that was really the bane of our existence, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
was.
because you'd be on hold for 40 minutes.
Yes.
You'd talk to Joe, and then you'd talk to Mary, and then you'd talk to Fred.
Right.
And none of them knew what the other one had done. But once it was computerized, and I do remember when we went on Equator, and again, Equator at that time was just software for REO, for bank-owned foreclosures. It was not used for short sales until it was. And then once it was, that really improved the process dramatically, really.
It did.
And you stepped right in it, but it required computers. So you had made peace with your computer, with your computer PTSD.
I did. I mean, anytime I had a computer problem, I'd go home. I'd be like, Eddie, the computer is not working. Can you please see what's wrong? Hand it to him. Do something, He's like, he's always yelling at me. How come you have all these windows open on the screen? You shouldn't have all the windows open.
Yeah, you shouldn't have a lot of windows open.
That's not what my IT guy says. He says it's fine.
Mm.
So anyway,
Well, I'm the pot calling the kettle black, but yeah, go on.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so I made peace with the computer and stuff, and it just became a lot easier to process these short sales. You know, and it's all about keeping track of stuff, communication, you know, getting things from the client. You know, part of my retainer agreement with the client would say, you know, you are going to cooperate with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to have to chase you for paperwork. And that was really key. I wouldn't have a contract fully executed until I got every single piece of paper from the client. Cause I'm not chasing you.
And one thing that people, the public seldom realizes is that we are chasing paper in our respective jobs all day if we don't get things under control, right? So whether you're a real estate agent or real estate attorney or loan officer, you're always getting an updated bank statement, or you're always getting an updated this or that, and there's always another piece of paper that the bank wants. So to lock in a buyer, and this was a volatile time. I mean, you know, a buyer, it was the polar opposite of what we have now. Right now, it's the buyer gives the agent their criteria. There's 3 houses that match. 2 of them have an accepted offer, so you get what you get and you don't get upset. But back then, buyers were drunk with options. You know, buyers would have 40, 50 houses to choose from. It's really hard to compare, right? It's hard to imagine that today. But if the buyer did not get the contract back, and this is my point, in a expeditious, in a good turnaround time, they weren't going to stick around.
Right.
And for you to bat like 990, which you did, on not just getting the contract out, but getting the contract out after you had gotten all of that paper from the seller, really says a lot about how you communicated with them, because you sent the message. They cooperated. They got you what you needed. And I can't say that about a lot of attorneys.
Thank you.
Wish I could. I can only think of one file, and it was in Rockland County, where they ghosted us. Other than that, I think everybody got everything in. That's all.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, I vaguely recall one file where I just couldn't get any paperwork. You know.
Well, the reason I probably remember it more vividly than you is because the house was vacant. They had already moved out. And when I went to the house from time to time to check on it, I was not the only one who had been inside.
Okay.
So some kids or somebody had found out, and it looks like somebody had set a small fire in the house. Like, you know, that big on the floor, little teeny tiny, maybe it had a sterno, it burned the I don't know. But I don't know what they were doing, but they were done with it and they had left, and I was glad. But yeah, that's not something I'd expect you to remember, but I certainly remember it vividly. But look, we've had clients pass away.
Oh, remember that one? Yeah. She was such a lovely woman.
She was.
That was just a can I curse? Can I curse?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
That was a clusterfuck.
It was.
Excuse my French.
It was a legal term.
Exactly, the legal term. Yeah. Because, you know, she had passed, right? And then when she passed, I had come to find out that her husband was not her husband. And she really did have a husband who she never divorced. And, you know, the gentleman she called her husband had passed before her. And there was a mortgage on the property. And the bank totally overlooked a federal tax lien. You remember that? And when I got them on the phone, I was like, you guys are in big trouble. How did you, try to place a lien over a federal tax lien? You just totally ignored that. I mean, that was a tough one.
Well, that was the picture of advocacy, though. And this is something that almost should be taught in classes, because what happened for the people should, the takeaway for me on this is that you had to go toe to toe with a big bad lender.
Yeah.
And the lender was being difficult. And I remember you telling me how you said to this, I guess, loss mitigator or grunt paper pusher at the bank, you refinanced this house without the actual spouse signing on. So they didn't even sign the note. So her late not husband,
right,
not only had heirs that
right.
he had to track down all over the Midwest and sign off on this, right? But you went toe to toe with the big bad lender, and they blinked. They backed off.
They did back off. They knew that they were in the wrong.
Yeah.
There was this, big, huge, bomb I hit them with, and, to say, hey, guys, you're like in serious trouble here. You know what I mean? And then the spouse, he had those two lovely ladies who we worked with, and they gave us paperwork. But then he had two other children that were in Chicago that caused us a little bit of a problem, but we got it done. And then I had to chase down her real husband, who happened to be a realtor in Brooklyn.
I don't remember that part. How about that?
You don't remember that?
I didn't know that he was licensed. No, didn't remember that part.
Licensed, yes, he's a licensed agent. I probably have his card somewhere, but I don't remember off the top of my head who he works for. But he was in Brooklyn, and I called him, and he was, very understanding, very accommodating. And I said, I will come to you. And I went with the deed and the transfer docs to Brooklyn. We signed in my car. You know what I mean? And, that's how you get this stuff done. I was, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was trying to track down one of the two kids in Chicago, I said to Eddie, I said, I think I'm taking a trip to Chicago. I'm going to have to find these people. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, he was looking at flights for me because I was going down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he resurfaced. He wouldn't sign paperwork without me giving him money. I don't know if but he wanted $100. $100? Yeah, no problem. Sign the papers. You know what I mean? But anyway, we got that done, and a lot of legwork, but it got done.
That was a brand building event, if there ever was one. And Brooklyn reminds me of that time. We went to that. We knew the market was changing when it went from a short sale to not a short sale. On that short sale. And we had the closing in Brooklyn, and we all went down in my car. We picked up the client, and my car started to overheat.
She was pregnant. Remember she was pregnant? And you were like freaking out because she's like, I don't know, she was like, what, 6 months pregnant or something like that?
I forgot that little detail, but it was embarrassing enough because my car was overheating with you and the client in the car.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was funny. We got that one too done. That was a tough one too. Hers was tough as well.
That was a difficult, it's funny. It's funny how in real estate, no one ever says, oh, that was an easy one.
Yeah.
Right. And I can almost guarantee you on those rare occasions when someone actually has a successful offer on the first house you showed them, that the rest of the transaction is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And conversely, sometimes there have been transactions where getting to the offer in the contract is like the 7 labors of Hercules or whatever it is. But then it's sort of downhill after that for some reason because everybody has their oars in the water and we all work well together. But doesn't help when cars overheat and people don't know that
Yeah.
there's no common law in the state of New York.
Right. Yeah, these little
Die,
minor details. I mean, details. Come on.
these
You know,
details.
this is
So
you
I
like
want
my
to
mug,
briefly
by the
touch
way?
on someone who hasn't. Oh, what's that say?
Like my
Please do
mug,
not.
by the way?
I love that. I love that. Please do not confuse your Google search with my law degree or your law degree. So your closing buddy is
Yes.
now 155 pounds of rippling muscle
Ugh.
and living, like the time of his life. So,
Good for him.
2010, Mark was 3.
Mm-hmm.
We were closing on Ann's parents' co-op.
Yep.
The buyer's attorney was what, an hour late?
Oh my God. Do you remember that guy? He was an hour late, sits down, and wants to start going over adjustments. I said, "You have got to be fucking kidding me. We're not doing this." Sorry, excuse me.
No, it's fine.
Anyone
It's a
who knows
legal
me
term.
knows I curse. Anyway.
It's a legal term.
So yes, I was like, no, we're not doing that. I think the buyer wanted to kill him, but Mark was so well behaved. He sat on my lap for a little bit. He was eating his Cheerios and stuff, and he was just the perfect helper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then a few years later, he showed up to another closing. Was again just like
He did.
the best behaved guy in the room.
Yes, he was.
He's
Better than the
still
lawyers.
the best behaved guy in the room.
Yes, he's so sweet. He is so sweet.
I'm biased, but yeah, he is. So, all right.
And that was, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, but that was, by the way, the greatest compliment I can ever get from someone is me handling their stuff personally. I mean, obviously at that time, and we knew each other for a few years at that time, but for you to ask me to handle your personal stuff was very touching to me.
Well, and you did the same. You paid the same compliment to me, if you recall. And we walked through some fun houses back then. So these days, if there's a bank-owned foreclosure and it's vacant, it's probably going to be cleaned out and many times renovated.
Mm-hmm.
But we walked into some places that looked like there had been Godzilla just thrashed his tail through that place.
Yeah. So.
Well, you love your place.
I do. We love
our
place.
Still got that Pac-Man machine downstairs?
Still got the Pac-Man machine. There are, as you know, I throw a party every January. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Although you missed this one this year.
I did.
I think you were doing something like, I don't know, getting married or some bullshit like that. I don't know.
Some bullshit.
Yes. You weren't there. But anyway.
I did that. Yeah.
I had a couple of agents say, "What do you mean you're not doing it at the house anymore? The Pac-Man machine is down there, the bar's down there, Sopranos pinball machine." It just started getting a little too big.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, you're all about growth and progress, right?
Yeah.
So, when did you see the market kind of turning around after the great? Was there like a bellwether event where you were like, you know what? I don't think we're in a great recession anymore.
You mean back then with the short sales and stuff?
Yeah. Short sales started to tail off, maybe. I don't know.
We were doing a lot of short sales still after the market was rebounding. Yeah. The short sales really started to slow down probably, I don't know, I would say maybe 16 or 17, somewhere around there. And then I think you know this, I'm also a foreclosure referee in the Bronx.
Did not know that.
Oh, okay. Yes, I am. So I was doing a lot of the auctions, during that time, probably 16, 17, 18. 19, no, not even 19, 16, 17, 18, probably around that time, I had a lot of auctions going on, you know. And then, of course, you know, COVID came around, kind of stopped everything in terms of auctions, really didn't have short sales.
No.
But the market was booming. People were moving. People were trying to get out of the city. I had a lot of deals in Connecticut, and I had Connecticut attorneys telling me, Laura, could you please tell your people stay in New York? They were getting an influx of New Yorkers in Connecticut, you know. But yeah, that was great. And yeah, every once in a while, I'll have a Connecticut attorney that will ask me to turn off my New York. And it's so ingrained in me, okay? Protect my client, you know, things have to be, you know, to the book, you know, everything has to be detailed in writing and stuff. And they're just not that crazy about that in Connecticut. Not to say that they don't do their job. The attorneys I deal with are fantastic there. But, you know, they're just not as crazy as we are
Different
here.
tone, don't you think?
Different tone,
It's just
absolutely.
a different tone. It's just
Yes.
sort of a different frequency that they're
It
on.
is. I get called Attorney Browne. You know what I mean? Out of respect. That's what they call me. You know, when I speak to the second, yes, Attorney Browne, I'll get attorney so-and-so on the phone. I'm like, okay, you know, little different tone there versus New York, you know.
Well, up
But
there, I believe the term is golly. They don't say that other word. They say, gee whiz.
gee whiz, exactly.
Gee
Exactly.
willikers. I mean, if it's really a thing, right?
Hey, did you know? Nah, I won't say this. Forget it. Go ahead. Go on.
Now I'm curious.
Well, we were talking about attorneys, so I
Yeah.
was just going to say, do you know I keep a list of attorneys that I've had problems with?
So do I.
Do you really?
Absolutely. I
I'm
keep a
not the only
list.
one.
I keep a list of home inspectors, real estate agents, attorneys, and loan officers who are on the never hire them list.
Yeah. Well,
right?
for me, when I see their name, I know I'm going to have some agita.
I remember you saying to an attorney at a closing, you know where I'm going with this, right?
I do know where you're going.
If we ever do another deal together and you do not return my phone calls, I'm going to drive up here and I'm going to punch you in the face. And he was looking at you, and you must have been in heels and he wasn't a tall guy. I don't know, but he was sort of looking up at you.
And I was holding his hand because I was shaking his hand when we were leaving.
Yes, and you were looking him right in the eye. You were in his grill.
I was.
And I could just see him, like the air leave the room for him. Like I've been called out. But it's you know, it's funny. It's always shall I say amusing to show up at a closing and be face to face with the attorney that has been completely useless and unresponsive, or the loan officer or the agent who is completely useless through the whole process. Show their face and act like everything's fine.
Right. Right.
Like
that's so disrespectful.
It's
exactly
what it is.
You know, I've been since we have a little bit of a lull in the market right now, right? I've been asked to do some first-time homebuyer seminar, which I've been doing, and I've also been asked to speak at sales meetings for various different brokerages. And what I have been asking, okay, because I generally don't have anything written down. I don't like to talk at people. I like to have a very fluid conversation with people about various different things.
Right.
Because I can talk about real estate all day, like you know. And I'll ask, what don't you like that attorneys do or don't do that potentially end up messing up your deals? And I always get some smirks, and I'm like, I'm a big girl, I can take it. Like, let's talk about this. Like, what have you seen? And the number one thing that always is part of the discussion is communication.
Yep.
You know, even as an attorney, okay, having to call other lawyers sometimes and not being able to get a response, you know, it's very annoying. You know what I mean? It's like we need to work together to accomplish, you know, the goal for the client. You know what I mean? So how can we work
Kind of
together?
do.
How can we work together so I can sell, you can buy, you know, and then move on? If we're not speaking, if we're not, you know, communicating and stuff, you know, it's a bad start.
So I can almost set my watch by this kind of pattern. All right. I will get a phone call or an email from the agent on the other side of the transaction. And it will say something along the lines of, our attorney said that your attorney's not returning their calls.
I love when you text me those messages because I laugh.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you know where I'm going with this, but not
Mm-hmm.
everybody does. So I've met you, right? I kind of know how you operate. All right. So I know that sometimes people in the industry, whether they're in law or lending or brokerage, will tell a little white lie to
Mm-hmm.
cover up the fact that they've been a slacker.
Mm-hmm.
So what they'll do is just sort of like, oh, there's Haley's comment, and then try and distract you,
Right.
and then later on they will catch up. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the tactics is a stressed out client, buyer or seller, will contact their attorney, and the attorney is, I don't know, they're pricing their vacation on Expedia or arguing with their wife or husband, or I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
they will say this almost reflexively. Well, I haven't heard from the other attorney, right? And then I get the Magna Carta of detailed communication efforts that have been sent out in the past 72 hours. And suddenly, the boat sort of turns around
Mm-hmm.
after that. But it is one of the more satisfying things. Like I can see it coming. Like it's almost slow motion. Like I can
Right.
see it coming. Like, here we go. Here we go.
Yep. Yep. Those are funny text messages.
All right. So we have a little time left. So I want to ask you a couple things.
Sure.
All right. Um, you mentioned the lull in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you think's going to shake things out? Where do you see things going? Right now we have low inventory. What's going
Right.
to change eventually? How's this going to play out?
I think, I mean, from what I've been seeing, I think that you have a lot of hesitant. I mean, obviously, you know better than I do, but I think you have a lot of hesitant sellers out there that are kind of saying, oh, well, you know, maybe we should kind of wait. But then also, on the flip side of that is, where are they going? Interest rates, you know, is still high. Okay. But, you know, if they don't have to necessarily move, they're staying right now. So
Exactly.
that's a problem. And I've been seeing, I think over the past week, past 2 weeks, we're going back to highest and best. We're going to bidding wars again.
Yep.
And I'm like, what is going on? You know, but you know, I think everybody gets wrapped up with interest rates and stuff. And in the whole grand scheme of things, 6%. I mean, I don't know what it is today, but 6%, six and a
Not
quarter,
bad. Yeah.
right, is really not bad. You know,
Historically speaking, it's really not bad.
historically, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Everyone
I mean, if you go back to 92,
score.
right?
Mhm.
And I go back to 96, we remember 8, 9, maybe 10,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So I think the decades of manipulating rates created a generation of people
Mm-hmm.
who, like, for example, there's sort of two avatars. You may have your empty nesters
Mm-hmm.
who, all things being equal, would sell, but A, they don't know where they're going to go,
Right.
and B, they refinanced a few years ago at 3%. And you know what? Rates are at 6. So I'll just mow the lawn and do these things myself. Exactly, Verona. Verona gets it,
Yes,
right?
Verona, exactly.
Well-trained professional right there, right? And then you also have the move-up buyers, right?
Right.
How do you move up when you're not only going to sell your house and increase your price point, but possibly increase your interest rate by 50%? It's
Mm,
tough. It's
yeah.
tough. So that has created this, really peculiar environment that we're really just not used to seeing. But I think there's sort of two paths to more inventory. And both of them, interestingly enough, do require more involvement from your neck of the industry.
Mm,
And the one path which has been largely absent has been distress. The COVID moratorium on foreclosures has put this 2.5, 3 year pause on the hourglass, and now the hourglass is upside down again.
right.
And there's a very short pipeline of distress. So that's one. And the other one is vacant homes, estate homes, people passing away.
Mhm.
They don't have to move anywhere. They're already
Right.
in a nursing home or in the ground or in a vase somewhere. I ever tell my vase story?
I don't think so.
Okay, another time. I'll get to it.
Okay.
Want to hear
Sure. Tell me.
it? 10 seconds.
All
All
right.
right, so we're looking at this house,
Uh-huh.
and we walk in the living room, and it's like floor to ceiling vases everywhere. And we're looking at one another like, this guy likes vases. And like hundreds of vases.
Hmm.
And it's like a cape, as I recall. We go upstairs, and there's a home office, and there's a coffee mug, and it says on the coffee mug, "World's greatest mortician." So I guess
Oh,
those were the maybe the non-paying clients in his
that's funny.
living room, floor to ceiling. I don't know.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
so I think vacant homes and
Hmm.
distress are probably what is going to
Mm.
loosen things up.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But it's going to take some time for the distress to meander through the court system, at least locally.
Right.
And of course, people die every day, but again, you got probate and wills and all
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I haven't had an auction in quite some time.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID, stopped everything. And even now, as we're kind of going back, um, I haven't had anything in the courthouse. So
Yeah. Well,
that's slow to come around.
that's sort of where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other things. So besides being, Uber spouse and Uber mom and lawyer extraordinaire, you're quite a cook.
Maybe.
Right? Maybe.
Maybe.
Right? But as I have since learned, you're a multi-species food preparer. So one of the many things I liked about you is, I know you for 5 minutes, and then there's like pugs licking me, right?
Yes.
Which is a good thing, which is a huge credibility builder, right, to me.
Hmm.
So what are their names? What are your?
So we have Shadow, who's going to be 10 in a couple of weeks.
Okay, I know Shadow.
And then we have Dolly, who's going to be 16 in August.
Yeah, Dolly's been around.
She's
having none of it, right? She's kind of.
She doesn't give about anything. She is my old bitch, and she just doesn't care about anything.
ZFG Dolly.
She doesn't see very well. She doesn't hear very well. She's in great health. But yeah, she's still trugging along. I think she's going to outlive all of us, to be honest with you.
So tell me about the bakery. Tell me about this.
So it's something I had been thinking about for the past, few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then in September, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. So it's mine and Amanda's thing. Amanda is my marketing extraordinaire. Okay. The Google actually works. When people look up local dog bakery, they find us. So anyway, so I had started the process in September, spoke to the state, Found a really, really great contact at New York State, if you can believe that.
I
Okay.
believe it.
And just so great, helped me kind of put everything together. So we have 4 products, 3 cakes, 1 dog cookie. They are all registered with New York State. They actually went to a lab in the Midwest. They had to be analyzed. Okay. It's like a whole serious thing,
I
you
got
know?
it.
So we are legit. So we launched in November, and we do some pop-ups. We've done pop-ups in Westchester and in the Bronx. And we just did our first gender reveal cake. Now, a lot of people are very confused about that. Okay. The gender reveal is for the human baby. And the parents wanted to involve the dog. And it was just the greatest thing. So I have to show you this picture. I was showing Tim before. But I'm just so beside myself at how adorable this was. So let's see. So this was the cake she asked for. Okay, if you can see that. So it's
I
just
see a little
plain
heart on
simple.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, plain simple, right? And that's my 4-inch cake. And then underneath is the color of the reveal, right? So the dog is now licking. Do you see?
Yeah.
And pink is coming up,
Yeah.
right? Whoops. Okay. And
Uh-huh.
now look at his face. Look at that smile on his face. Is that not like the best thing ever?
That's awesome.
And then we
That's
had a first, I mean, we've had some birthdays here and there, but here's our first birthday party.
awesome.
They had full birthday hats and everything for the dog. That was
I love
Java. Just so cute. So we're having a good time with it. You know, every time someone calls up and orders, you know, we're home based, so I don't have a physical location. I use my Scarsdale office address as a pickup location.
Makes sense.
And, you know, every time I meet the person for pickup, I'm like, oh, how did you hear about us? And they're like, oh, I just Googled local, you know, dog bakery. And there you were. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
What's the name of the baker? What's the name of the business?
Curly Tail Cakes.
Curly Tail Cakes.
Yes. Eddie
Got it.
came up with that name because of the pugs, Curly Tail.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
he's a genius.
He is.
Yes, he is. And yeah, so we're having a good time with it. It is definitely a de-stressor. Yeah, there we go.
I love it.
There's the website. Thanks, Tim.
I love it. Tim's got a few tabs open too.
Yeah, I
It's
see
a
that.
sign of great minds. That's all there is to it.
I see. So yeah. So we're, you know, we're excited about that. We're having a good time with it. I actually just made a cake this morning. When I came home from the gym, I whipped up a cake this morning. I'll deliver it later today. But yeah,
Look at that
there's
face.
some of our stuff.
Gotcha day. I love the gotcha.
Day, exactly. So we also make donuts. I can make donuts out of my cakes, cupcakes. I've made cake pops, you know, so yeah.
So let me tell you why this is so awesome, right? So one of the things that I've experienced about housing professionals is that we have a higher than average number of pet lovers in our midst. It's just a fact, right?
Right.
And you know, being a dog guy, well, I guess I count as a dog.
Oh, cat too, no?
We have 3 cats now.
Yes.
And my wife is Dr. Doolittle. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about great first date. We talked about the kids, human kids. Fine. We procreated, but dogs, cats, chickens, horse, all of this is in her world. So we have chickens here. We got 3 cats. We got we're down to 2 dogs, if you will. I mean, you know, we at one time had 4 dogs between us.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but we have a lot of eggs. I'll bring you some eggs next time I see you.
Well, thank you. I would appreciate that.
We'll do that.
You know, they're very expensive right now, you know?
Not well, ours are expensive in terms of labor.
Yes.
Because chickens are not super high maintenance, but you got to open and close the coop every day and feed them and make sure the water's there and collect the eggs. And, you know, they are not the most clean animals. They're certainly cleaner than ducks, as I have learned. But yeah. So, you know, look, the human dimension of, not just being a, bent over a desk lawyer, to me gives a lot of, I don't know, it gives you a lot of depth for people. I mean, it's a very relatable thing. I mean, even if somebody's like not a dog person per se, I mean, isn't it much easier to deal with somebody that's just not like a one-dimensional,
Right.
bore machine, and all they can talk about is like legal briefs, like,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Yes. I do like other things and stuff. And um, I'm also, as you know, uh, martial artist. So sometimes I'll have clients in
How did
my.
we not cover that?
It's okay.
Are you a
My
black belt?
No, I was supposed to test for my black belt, and then COVID hit, and I was so upset.
Ah, hmm.
Um, but in the Scarsdale office, I think you can see my pink bat right behind me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So in Scarsdale, I have a sword on the wall.
Hmm.
So, I've had several clients come in and they're like, "Oh, what's up with the sword?" And they'll start, we'll start talking about martial arts and they're martial artists and stuff. So it's really cool,
Hmm.
And I've been doing that. It's going to be almost 9 years now.
9 years. Wow. Hmm.
And it's very humbling, and it's a great art. I practice jujitsu,
I was going
and
to ask. So it's jujitsu that
it's
you do.
jujitsu,
Okay.
yeah. And it's teaches a lot of discipline and stuff, and it
I'd
helps.
imagine it does.
It does, because I can get crazy. Um, especially when a lawyer's not calling me back, I can get a little crazy. But no, it's really nice. I like the discipline. My sensei is fantastic. And it's just a great thing. I tried to get my daughter into it. She did a year, and then she had bigger and better things to do. But it's okay. So
Well, you shared it with her, and that's a thing.
I did.
Mark and Kat did Taekwondo. Luke did it for a while, but Mark and Kat took it through their black belts. I don't know that they're actual black belts, like right
Mm,
now in terms of skill level, but I do think it certainly helped with their mindset,
right.
right? So that's one of the benefits of it. Certainly helps you physically, but it also
Yeah.
gives you almost like a Zen kind of mindset. Um,
Absolutely. And it's not something to be used as a threat. It's it's taught so that you can help to defend yourself. But if you're in a situation, I mean, you should try to exit if you can. If you have no choice,
yeah,
then you use it, you know.
yeah.
So
Well, there's only two scenarios where it should be used: self-defense, and when attorneys don't return your calls
absolutely.
on the largest transaction of their client's life. They have it
Absolutely.
coming.
Yeah, you're
So you
right.
can go Jackie Chan all over them, and be justified, right? That would be
Right.
my
Exactly.
so how do we reach you? I mean, if someone's dog is hungry, or they have a real estate need and they need a really solid real estate, here we go.
Oh, here we
There we
go.
go,
So
Timothy.
you can actually text my office number too. We do have that technology.
Which number do they text?
Any of the
Any one of them?
numbers doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I have 3 different numbers. We're
And so
always reachable.
so you do city properties, you do New York properties, you do Connecticut properties.
Commercial, residential. I had clients who bought businesses. The only place, dare I say, I don't like to go is Staten Island.
Staten Island.
It's like a different country.
It's a
But I
different
will
country.
go. Yeah, I will go north. I will go Dutch. Oh, I actually had a closing in Sullivan County last month, and I took advantage while I was up there. I went to Resorts World. I think that's a cute little casino that they have up
It
there.
is. It is.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
nice. So I'm all over
Gregory's
the
up
place.
there. Gregory's up at Center for Discovery. He's
Oh, that's up there.
not far at all, as a matter of fact. It's in
Oh,
Monticello.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When
Very
we
nice.
finally build our dream home, we'll hang out by the lake up there. I'll show you around.
Very cool. Very
But yeah,
cool.
it's very nice up there. But
It is.
well, look, to wrap this up, your the best real estate attorney I know. You're a
Thank you.
good friend. You're a great cook.
Thank
This
you.
would be a great, like, if you were single, this would be like a great thing too. But you're not. So
Yeah,
this is a
exactly.
professional thing, right?
I
Well, it's
already
one of
have
those
the man of
laid
my
out that
dreams.
were taken in the beginning because you're just too top shelf for that to be like ambiguous.
30
right?
years. 30 years. I already
30
found my
years.
guy. I found my guy a long
And
time
we're
ago.
going to celebrate you're renewing your vows.
We are. Are you coming?
I am.
Oh, great.
I am.
That's awesome.
I
Eddie
think we
joked
are.
and he was wondering if I forgot my vows from 30 years ago. I said, no, honey, it's just we should celebrate and maybe add some things to our vow renewal. Like,
Oh,
you know,
boy.
I should do the dishes
Oh.
and maybe the laundry.
Sounds like men are predictable creatures, aren't we?
Yeah, usually.
Well, look, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
What'd I tell you? I told you it'd fly by.
Yeah, I know. It was great. It was
Fly
great.
by. Just the way it works.
Yeah.
So, people out there, if your dog has something special and deserves a treat, Curly Tail Bakery, right? And if you're going to move, call Laura.
Oh, wait. One thing I said at my party was, you know, for the realtors, if, you know, sometimes the realtors will get a gift for their client at the closing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they have a dog, they could get some treats.
Boom.
Look at that.
It all comes together.
It does.
It all comes together.
It does. I am a one-stop shop.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. All right, Timothy, take it away. Laura, namaste.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.